welcome back to Monday Morning Detective, the podcast. My name is Gino Scala, and I'll be your host. Today we're going to touch on the subject of these mass shootings that we seem to be seeing a lot of. And I'm going to break it down with some statistics that I've got from the New York Times. Now, it's not my favorite source, and they're certainly slanted. They're anti-2A, anti-Second Amendment, anti-police as a whole. And, of course, we know they're anti-conservative. So, but they did, in an article in June 2022, last year, they did provide some numbers. And I'm going to take these numbers as facts. That's probably a dangerous thing to do, but for the sake of this podcast, we will. And it's a little tricky because they break it down in several steps. So I'll try to generalize it. They took 433 active shooting attacks. I don't know which ones, and I don't know for how long they went back to, but that's the group sum of shooting attacks that they studied. In 185 of those shooting attacks, the shooter left the scene 113 times. 113 times they were gone before the police arrived. 72 committed suicide at the scene. And 64 of the incidences, a bystander either shot the attacker or subdued the attacker. In 64 incidences. Now, that was before the police arrived. Now, they defined a bystander as being a citizen, an off-duty police officer, or a security guard. So you basically have, 64 instances where a good guy with a gun subdued or shot the attacker. Okay? And that's when, that's before the police arrive. So now, out of 433 active shooting investigations, 184 ended once the police arrived. Now, in 131 of those cases, the shooter was shot by the police 98 times. In 53 of those cases, the shooter was subdued, died by suicide, or surrendered. And to break those down, they surrendered 15 times, they committed suicide 38 times, and they were subdued by the police in 33 times. So that's how it breaks down in the large picture. 433 active shooters, roughly 250 ended before the police arrived. So they were fairly quick events. Usually a handful of victims, and then the shooter turns the gun on themselves. If you investigate those further, you'll find that it's mostly family related or employee-employer related. So you've got a crazy person with a gun taking their anger out on innocent people and then killing themselves before the police arrive. In roughly 200 cases, the police stopped the shooter either by tackling them and subduing them, or forcing the shooter to surrender, or shooting and killing them. And then there's a percentage that where they committed suicide once the police arrived. Okay, so what does this tell us? Well, it tells us that we need to stop explaining why these people are killing. They will kill, and there's nothing we're going to do about it unless we take mental health seriously. Now, in this last shooting, the one that happened in Allen, Texas, we have a suspect who is dead at the hands of a police officer, rejected or removed from military service due to mental health issues. Now, what is this person doing with any kind of gun? An AR or a handgun or anything? You have mental health issues enough to where you're taken out of military service, removed. Then there shouldn't be any legal way of you obtaining a weapon. I think, now I'm pro Second Amendment, obviously, and exercise that right frequently. But I think the majority of 2A proponents would agree that you don't give crazy people the opportunity to have a weapon. So that's our first step we have to do as a society, whatever that takes. And we have to define exactly how, what is considered mental health issues and go from there. Now, there are times, I suppose, that mental health can be corrected. And at that time, people should have their rights reinstated. But up until that time, this guy was considered having mental health issues. And I, just off the top of my head, going back to Lanza in Newtown, and several, and many, many more since then, most of these shooters have had mental health issues. So that's what we need to target, not the taking away of weapons. Because as you see from the statistics, a good guy, a good person, guy, gal, doesn't matter, a good person with a gun will generally end any incident involving a bad guy with a gun. Now, why is that? Because the bad guy isn't expecting someone in a McDonald's food line to have a weapon who can turn around and shoot them in the head. So it's the lack of expectation and the surprise factor that plays an important part in that. So fast forward to, let's say, 10 years, if conservatives like myself, if we get if we have the power and we get to change the certain rules and allow concealed weapon permits for anybody and everybody, open gun carries. Now, how foolish is that going to be for a man to enter a store, let's say in Arizona, where it's open gun, and attempt to rob the storekeeper when there are 5 or 10 customers inside that store? Half of them could be armed. So he's automatically going from a robbery of an unarmed storekeeper, as it would be today, to a potential death sentence at the hands of not only the storekeeper, but one or more of the customers. So now my position is not to arm everybody, but those who want to be armed, those who are trained, who will get trained, who will be licensed, and this training and licensing is updated on a regular basis, let's say every 3 years or so, and their mental health is fine, perfect, then we can have citizen police officers out there. Citizen patrols. Now, I'm not advocating that they patrol and arrest burglars. That's not the case. I'm talking about they go through life carrying a concealed weapon, and when the incident occurs, they're there as an extra arm of the police. This is where we are now. The answer is not to take the guns away from the public, because the criminals are still going to have guns. So we need to change the mindset while also working on the mental health factor. That's a huge, huge factor in this. Desperate people take desperate measures. And mental health has everything to do with these incidences. So I want to congratulate all the police officers and citizens who have been involved in these situations of saving lives. This last one in Allen, Texas, 8 people died, but it could have been 80. This person was armed to the teeth, and if it wasn't for the quick response of a police officer who simply heard the shots and responded, no radio call, and took out the shooter before other units arrived. That is what you would call a hero. And our police departments around the United States are filled with these heroes. So that is the thought of a Monday Morning Detective, episode 42. And we'll talk to you very soon. Okay? Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.